Hey everyone, this is Kenny Coins from Marathon Money. I'm with Mitchell here. I met Mitchell through LinkedIn. We had a couple conversation. He's actually in real estate in New York, the Big Apple. So Mitchell, um, tell me how you got into your industry.
Thanks, Kenny. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. As you can probably tell from my accent, from across the pond. I'm from England. I actually studied real estate at college when I was 18. So I went to university to study real estate. Upon graduating, I tried to get a job in London because I'm from the outskirts of London, but unsuccessfully couldn't find a role in real estate there. So a local company I worked for doing appraisals. So I was doing appraisals for a local company, writing reports for banks, and telling them about the value of their real estate. So at the time, I really hated the job because I didn't like writing reports. But on reflection, it was good learning to understand the basic value drivers of real estate. Did that for a couple of years, and I moved to London and went into brokerage. So that was my start into the business.
I want to know how it's like. I feel like everybody gets these jobs in the beginning of their career because I had one. I
Yeah,
worked at Scott Trade Investment. I don't even know if you ever heard of it. I started at the bottom level. I was like a trader, but I wasn't really a trader. I was more of like a runner.
okay,
Um, but I learned so much
yeah.
when I look back at it. Um, I feel like in the meantime, it's like you hate it, but when you look back, it's like pivotal moment because we probably use some of those lessons, some of those things, some of those reports that you wrote today.
Definitely,
You
definitely, exactly. I think the beginning of your career, the first 10 years, are foundational for the rest. I think that anyone manages their own career, so you have to make the moves that you want to when, and get to look up to the people, but connect with the people where you want to be, and figure out how you can get there.
So how what do you think about the real estate in New York right now?
Well, that's a big question. What do I think about the real estate in New York right now? Obviously, it's one of the biggest market in the world for dollar volume and transactions of real estate. They say it's the fifth sport of the city. It's a big industry in New York. There's a lot of development, a lot of buildings. Um, the market's been generally, on a whole, the commercial market's been on a downturn for the last 5 or 6 years or so. Really, since like 20, maybe longer now, actually, 7 or 8 years. But people still want to buy real estate in New York. There's always a thirst and capital and new buyers that want to enter into the market looking for opportunity. And New York's full of entrepreneurs. And in the real estate business, there's a lot of legislation that gives the opportunity for entrepreneurs to come in who are creative and to zig when the legislation may be changing and zagging another way. So it's very creative, full of entrepreneurial people, and there's plenty of opportunity even in a downturn.
So how creative have you been in this market?
How creative have I been in this market? I've sort of stuck to my guns and what I've done for the last 5 or 6 years. Done the same thing over and over again, trying to build my own brand in the Bronx market, which I focus on. I One of my colleagues actually coined the phrase Brit in the Bronx about 4 or 5 years ago now. I've been hammering that drum for a number of years.
Yeah,
Um,
man, dude, that's a good ring to it. I like that. That's a
yeah,
good ring to it, man. That actually might be a household name.
yeah.
That's
so
really
um,
good.
I moved here like 5 years ago. It was tough at the start. I was lucky I was surrounded by good people and a good firm to understand the basics. But I did the same thing over and over again. The basic fundamental blocking and tackling of real estate brokerage, making your phone calls, doing pitches, understanding the comms, understanding the market, writing articles and what your thoughts are on the market, studying it consistently and providing value to clients and ownership. I'd be people that own buildings in that market. And then after a while, people sort of recognize that you know what you're talking about and you have a track record, and things just sort of progress from there. But to answer your questions in terms of creativity, I have a podcast with my partner Brian. I write articles. I use LinkedIn. I understand affordable housing and the Bronx market better than most people. So that just provides value to my clients because they know that I know the trends are happening right now. And it's very dynamic. The trends are always changing. every 6-12 months, something new's coming in, or interest rates yesterday came down. So how's that's going to affect the market? Speak to buyers and speak to sellers. So I'm very much in tune and keeping my finger on the pulse on what's happening.
Now, you said interest rate came down. I saw that. How do you think that's going to affect the market?
We'll probably sell about $100 million worth of real estate this year in the Bronx. And we're seeing from all our listings that a lot of people are sort of baking the interest rate cut into their offers right now. So I think that it's going to take a while for it to feed through into the market. It won't happen as quickly as they went. They won't come down as quickly as they went up. So I think it's going to progress slowly. I've had some texts from some clients today saying, "Oh, is this going to help the value of my building?" I was like, "Yeah, it's going to help, but it's certainly not going to get a load of value overnight. It's going to take some time for it to filter through." So yeah, we'll see. Yet to be seen. That's the exciting thing about real estate. No one knows the answer.
No. It seems like everything changes on the whim. Definitely in like New York City, you could be up high in glory. Things are just moving, flowing, and then the next day, everything changes.
Exactly.
When the interest rate was going up, how quickly did the effect take place for a guy like you?
Pretty rapidly. Stuff that are having the market, particularly cash flowing assets that are driven by interest rates. The value is driven by interest rates, like multifamily buildings or anything that's cash flowing. The rates doubled within 12, 24 months or so. So that really did have a negative impact on values. And we had some clients we advised to sell before these rents went up. And it was a bit like catching a falling knife, because they're coming up and up and up. The values of the building go down, down, down. And we even having buyers in contract, but then they were getting retraded by their bank at closing. So they had a fixed term sheet for an interest rate and the loan they wouldn't get on the acquisition loan. And then they're coming to the closing table and their bank's not giving them the same rate. So that kind of made a bit of stressful situations in like potential retrading from buyers, then upsell sellers. But yeah, it's always a push and pull between fear and greed.
Yeah, I can definitely say so. Now, you talked about doing something over and over again. That, to me, that sounds like consistency and discipline, no motivation.
People struggle with that. They really do.
It's everybody can run a marathon if you listen to a motivational quote or motivational speech, but to get up and do something consistently every day, and to the point where you gotten so good at it to where it's boring now. Like you can do it from, like, just not looking. You know what's going on. You've been through all the cycles in the real estate market. You can probably wake up and smell the air outside and say, "Yeah, we're probably going to sell like 25 million today." This just by doing it by doing it for so long. How do you think you got to that?
That's a good question. So I have a good reputation for having good discipline. I always have. How I developed that, I'm not 100% sure, but I was like that as a kid. Played a lot of football as a kid, soccer, I would just say over here. And I would never miss a training session, ever. Never miss a training session. A lot of young kids did, for they're sick or they just didn't feel like doing it every day. And when I went to college, my first year of university, I never missed a class. And I don't know how it is in America, but no one has 100% attendance rate. I did. I had 100% attendance rate just because, like, it's just kind of like who I am. And it's easy for me to do because I've always been like that. But for the people that don't have the natural discipline, I feel like you can develop it. It's just a mindset. It's a mindset thing. If you can,
I don't have that level of discipline that you have. I know I had to build it.
Yeah. And how did you go about doing that?
It was college. When I played college football, that's how I did it. I realized there's a certain point of a choice. Either you're going to start doing the hard things over and over again, and to the point where they're not even hard anymore and it feels comfortable. And the moment I realized that, that's when things started to really change for me. Now I don't really care if I'm sick or have a headache. I'll get on a podcast. I'll go to work. I don't care if I went to bed at like 12. I used to be a trader, so I'll get up at 3 a.m. So I'll get up and do it regardless what the situation would be. I think it comes down to having a mindset like what you don't get done a day, eventually you're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
And then what you
All this,
do today,
what I've learned about my business is that all
yeah,
the secrets are in the things that you don't want to do, the difficult things to
100,
do.
100%, 100%. I learned so much more on the things I don't want to do
Yeah.
than I learned in the things I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, consistency and discipline is probably the key to everything. Is really like the key to longevity,
Yeah, but
honestly.
it's a muscle, right? Your brain is neuroplastic, so you can develop it, and it molds over time. So if you do hard things, then you're raising the bar, because the next time you do something that used to be hard won't be as difficult.
No, it won't be. I think you have to get through that toughness. You ever heard of the like? I don't know if you ever heard of a guy named Charlie Munger.
Yeah,
He
of
like
course. Yeah.
died. Like yeah, you probably. I don't even know why I said that. But he said the hardest part to get to wealth is making that first 100K.
Mm,
But I think the true what I think what he was really saying in the beginning is where all the tough parts is.
mm,
Once you get past that, being consistent and disciplined becomes a lot easier.
mm,
You just gotta get past the hard parts and all the hard parts, all the rough parts, all the sticky parts, all the uncomfortableness is really just in the beginning. It's,
yeah.
it's like when definitely when you're selling. If you never sold anything in your life and you start working for a company that sells, you know what I mean. It's so hard to speak to people.
Mm,
It's so hard to talk. It's so hard to pick up the phone and call, and you're afraid, your thing. But
yeah.
once you
Yeah.
get past all that, picking up the phone becomes like second nature. Talking to
Yeah.
people about what you're trying to sell, what you're trying to consult them on, become super easy.
Well, I feel like in that instance, commitment breeds confidence, because if you're
Oh,
committed to what you do, you're going to be knowledgeable about what you know. You have an expertise, and then you have you have something to say, you have some value to bring. So if you're not committed to build the knowledge base, then you won't be confident about providing that knowledge to your clients or whoever you're speaking to. Um, so yeah, discipline is very, very important.
yeah. How did you figure out who you were in the real estate game?
Oh, that's a good question. I like to, I had a vision of myself and looked up to more senior brokers in the business, like who I would like to be like, who like, someone to look up to. And the most important thing is just having good morals and good values, because all you have, your only currency as a real estate broker is your reputation. I don't have any sort of IP that I'm selling. It's just me, and people know, and your reputation has to be rock solid. So like your reputation, your values, you're doing the right thing, being known for being reliable, turning up, showing up for your clients when you need them, just helping them in any way, and not even just clients, anyone. Small world, the real estate business, and your reputation is what you're known for before you walk through the door. So people have a preconceived idea of who you are based on your reputation. So that's the most important thing to me. Like being professional as well is very important. People remember these little things.
No, I think you're 100% right. Um, I think it's usually the small things that makes you really successful. It's never
Mm.
really the big things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The small things you get right, how you walk through the door, how you hold yourself up, um, even the way you pronounce things, or how your creativity. Say, just like the Brits in the Bronx. Am I correct with that saying?
The Brit in the Bronx. Yeah.
It's the Brit in the Bronx. Like the stuff like that. It's like it has a ring to it, and it's
Yeah.
like something so small, but it's going to be impactful. And I think that type of creativity, when you're confident in what you do, like confidence also breeds this unity and this ability to want to be a part.
Yeah.
Like when you're coming in somewhere confident, you know what you're talking about. People want to say, "No, no, no, I want to be a part of what he's doing," even if I'm just buying a property from him or he's selling my property. It's just a
Yeah.
feeling that no, I want to be a part of what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I
It's not just
think,
real estate, it's anything, right? It's if
yeah,
you
it's
buy a
anything.
car or a watch, if someone's knowledgeable about the product, then you're more likely to trust them and then want to buy. Trust is obviously very important. You have to earn the trust. You got to
Yeah,
trust by being reliable, showing up, and knowing your product and doing the right thing, your reputation.
man. So you kind of, if I'm wrong, you kind of run your own brokerage firm, correct?
No, no. I co-run a team.
Yeah, you
Uh,
co-run a team.
yeah, a team that sells buildings in
Yeah.
New York City.
So running a team, managing a team, what kind of leadership skills have you developed
That's a
doing
good
all that?
question. That's good. Something I'm still learning. It's a constant learning process. But I think you got to lead by example. Yeah, you got to be in early. You got to show people that you care about them. You got to have. You got to pass on your knowledge to your colleagues. You got to mentor them, make them feel loved, and feel like they're part of something. But I'd say the biggest thing is just leading by example in everything.
Yeah, like I run a team too, and I'm always wondering, man. I feel like I always got to upgrade myself to make everybody else better around me.
Yeah,
And I feel like everything you talked about, writing and learning and researching, it's like you're just naturally upgrading yourself, and then over time, everybody's getting better around you because you're getting smarter.
yeah.
Do
Being
you do
being
you
that being naturally curious as well. Curiosity is a great thing. Being curious about how people do things and why they do them and why does this make sense. If you don't have that natural curiosity, you're not going to go find the answer.
know what I mean? What's been like the toughest challenge in selling a building? Because that's a
Um,
big feat in itself, trying to sell a building.
yeah, we're dealing with successful people, and everyone wants everything their own way. Which had a closing last week for 20, almost 23 million. Two big people in the industry, speaking to both the buyer and the seller and being in the middle and making them feel like they both won in a transaction. When you deal with two big personalities that have been very successful in the business, that's not an easy feat. But I think the way you do that is by communicating, being reliable, earning their trust, making them feel like that you're on their side, you know, and making them feel like you'll go to bat for them. You'll go to war to do whatever it takes to get the deal done.
Yeah. When when you're between two giants, you got to control ego and pride, and
Yeah.
you got to also control power. Everybody wants to assert when you're playing in that field in that league. Um, everybody wants to assert their power. Like, how do you really truly deal with that?
I think you show to your client that you know what you're talking about. They can sniff out very quickly. Someone who's that successful, they're going to know in a few minutes whether you know what you're talking about or not, and how you going to add value to them. Like, for example, how am I going to sell a building for top dollar for this client? How am I going to get you the most money? I'm going to do it by running a process, creating a bidding war, X, Y, Z, and not sleeping until it's done. And that's exactly what I said to him. I won't sleep until it's done. And he gave me a shot, and he trusts me, and I appreciate it, and I'd like to think I delivered well for him, and now he's happy. Yeah, so I think that's what you got to do.
And do you think there's a psychology to how people become successful? Because it
Yeah,
seems like you got it kind of down pat.
yeah.
The way
Psychology. If I go
to
back
be
in
the
time,
mediator.
if I go back in time, I would study psychology at college because you're just dealing with people all the time, managing people, managing relationships, getting the best out of people. Um, it's just you're dealing with the people, and everyone has their own agenda, and everyone has their own issues they're dealing with, and everyone has their own ego, and you have to manage people, try and get the best of them out of them, and show them that you care about them. And so the psychology plays a big part in that. I've read a lot about psychology. I find psychology fascinating. The brain
No,
is
no,
very good. The
I
brain is very
find
complicated.
I find psychology fascinating, amazing, because when I started using it in my trading, I started to become even more successful at it. Um, then when I started to do consulting for large businesses and basically being advisors to CEOs, the thing I learned is it just the simple conversation that me and you have, and just what I've learned is that you built yourself a process that is based on consistency and discipline
Yeah,
from your
that's the
natural ability.
that's the foundation.
That's your foundation. That so like if if I were to come in and I was your advisor, I would know like immediately, okay, he's gonna be a guy that wakes up like 4 or 5 a.m. and he's gonna expect A, B, and C to be done. And then he's gonna expect this type of team.
Yeah. Well, I think
Because
you got to maintain a high standards for yourself.
yeah,
Right?
so
That's another thing I've learned about being part of a team. You can't let your own personal standards drop because someone
you
else
can't.
around you has lower
You can't.
standards. It's not
But
sorry, lower is the wrong word. Different standards. You have to maintain your high standards if you want to become successful. And by
yeah,
high standards, I mean your work ethic. You know,
yeah,
and
your work ethic gotta be high. And I think when you enter somebody who is successful or somebody who deals with bigger players, their mindset in finding people is different than what somebody who is not successful, because the first thing they're thinking about what I can't do that maybe you can do, and that's how they think. I need somebody because I can't do this, I'm not good at it. So I need somebody who can do that, but they're going to need that person to think a little bit different than them. And if you can think a little bit different than them and you can explain yourself very well, like you said, you can communicate very well, um, you might just be successful. And if you can communicate and manage and withstand pressure, I think you can be extremely wealthy. I
yeah.
think that's like the key to the whole thing.
Mm.
Um,
Particularly in America,
communic-
the opportunities are endless in America. America's the best
yeah,
country in the world.
yeah,
And
it,
the way I think about it in terms of clients, like just like you got to bring them value. You got to tell them
yeah,
something they may not know, or bring them some value in some sort of way. Otherwise, what use are you to them? Like that's
yeah.
pretty transactional, but you got to bring values to the table.
And I think, I think also like, how do you communicate that value? Like you're just by this podcast, you're a great communicator. I can see that, and you're probably good at communicating between two hostile parties. That one guy probably thinks it's worth this price, and the other guy probably thinks it's worth this price. I'm pretty sure you've done that,
Yeah,
and that
okay.
brings a different level of psychology because to me, it's like you probably know the truth. It's like this property's not worth this price, but you have to somewhat make them come to terms with that.
We have to manage the expectation, and that's been very difficult because values have come down a lot over the last few years. So everyone thinks their building's worth more, and I get it. Everyone thinks their baby's the cutest. Everyone thinks if I had a building, I'd think it's worth more than everything else. But you do that by managing their expectations, by hitting them with the facts of the neighborhood. What is everything else sold for, and why is the number this? If you can clearly articulate why the value of the building is that whatever it is, 5 million or whatever it may be, then your knowledge, the owner won't be able to really argue with it because you know what you're talking about. So if you study, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you study the market, you know the comps, you know the trends, you know what the buyers are, you know the government policy, you know why the building is worth what it is today. Some owners get carried away like it's going to be worth X more in a few years' time. Maybe it will be. If you want to sell today, this is what it's worth, and then this is why. And because I have the expertise, and I'm confident because I've studied the market a lot, that no one's going to know the answer better than I do, then that's why I'm able to earn their trust.
Do you think you use emotional intelligence?
Yeah, I think so. I've read a lot of books about emotional intelligence. It's a very key skill. I think I used to have an old mentor who had the highest IQ I've ever seen. I thought it was very incredible how he would emotionally connect with people and use that, um, not in a harmful way or in a positive way to help people, particularly in the management side. Yes, you got to be able to connect with people. Sometimes find some common ground. Have empathy. Empathy is a real key skill.
I feel like in real estate, there's a big, huge need for emotional intelligence.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Because you hit it on the nail with this is my baby. I paid this much for it. I think it's worth this much.
Yeah,
You know, there's a. I feel like there's a lot of emotional intelligence to get them to to play to basically say I understand that. I understand you have an emotional attachment to this. You put money
Yeah.
into this. You watched
Yeah.
it over the years.
Yeah.
You know.
And I always advise clients, don't sell. I'm here to help if you want to sell, but you shouldn't sell. It's New York City real estate, unless you have a particular reason to. Particularly now, because the market's been not that great. If say in 5 years' time the market's great, and I feel like it's topping out for whatever reason, then maybe then that time would be a good time to sell. But it's personal reasons why people do sell at whatever time. But I do empathize with owners, because it's been unfortunate, particularly with multifamily buildings. The rent stabilization laws changed, so that really had a negative impact on values, and like that was out of their control. That was a government legislation that really wiped a lot of value overnight. So I have a lot of empathy for these people. A lot of them are just like hardworking supers originally that saved up enough money to buy a building, to create a future cash flow and pension for them and their family. It's really sad, genuinely sad to see. So definitely with them types of clients, I would go to war to get them those money.
Yeah.
And you got to make them feel that. You got to make them feel like you're really going to go and get them, do everything you can. And you can only convey that message if you have passion for what you're doing. You can't fake that.
No, you can't. You cannot fake that. And people can definitely see that. One last question. Where do you think New York real estate is going to be in 10 years?
10 years, wow. It's
Or
going to
5.
continue to
We
trend
can
up.
shorten.
If you look at real estate values, yeah, I think it's definitely, the market's definitely getting better. There's that. It's a cyclical market. It's been down for a number of years. It will come back around. The rates will drop, and it's New York City. It's a cliche, but there's no more land being built, particularly like the Manhattan. It's small, it's condensed. Real estate it always has a need. I think that affordable housing is something I've been focusing a lot on, and I feel like that's a very important conversation. And particularly in the Bronx, I find it meaningful being part of these transactions where you're selling to affordable housing developers who are going to create a community and create much needed affordable housing. I like to think I play a very, very small part in that wheel by trying to make these deals happen. Finding people that want to sell and selling it to developers who can create affordable housing. I think that's a great thing. But New York City is alive and well, and I think the market will improve in the near term.
Man, Mitch, I appreciate you, man. I really hope that,
Thank you.
With interest rate
we're gonna have to
going,
get together in person.
no, we definitely have to get together in person. We both live in New York. Man, I hope you do 200 million, not 100 million, 200 million in
Thank you.
sales,
I appreciate that.
real estate, man. I hope everything goes well. I have properties myself. Not in New York. I do want something in New York. I think that's always the pinnacle of like, oh, I made it. When you have at least a brownstone.
Everyone wants to buy the big apple.
Yeah,
Everyone wants to buy the big apple.
Yeah, everybody wants to buy the big apple. Everybody wants to play the game. As much as people say, oh, I don't. If you have an opportunity to buy a place in New York, you're gonna buy it. You're gonna buy it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you're gonna be happy with it, because values in New York, you're like you said, it does only go up, and it's cyclical, and people are coming to the city all the time. There's always somebody hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always new blood.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be some kid that wants to be a billionaire, and New York is like a place to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Can't agree more.
So,
and we both have connections to Miami as well. My wife's from Miami, so we have to get together down there as well.
We gotta get together down there, and we gotta get together up here. Man, I really appreciate you coming on my show.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is Marathon Money. Peace.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.